Hey everybody, welcome to the Global Health Impact Network podcast. I'm your host, Martin Eales, and today we have an amazing episode with an amazing guest. I would like to introduce you all to Chris Pavlatos, founder and CEO of PatientMD. Chris, it's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. So why don't we kick off today's session with, telling us a little bit about yourself.
I am a practicing physician here in the Chicago area. I was born and raised here in Chicago. Went to medical school at the University of Illinois. I actually did 2 residencies. I started out in internal medicine, completed the residency program, obtained my board certification, but went on straight from there and did an orthopedic residency up at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And then I did a sports medicine fellowship with Dr. James Andrews down in Birmingham, Alabama. And I've been practicing orthopedics with a fairly large group here in the Chicago area called Illinois Bone and Joint for over 25 years. During my practice, I went back to school again and obtained my MBA from Northwestern's Kellogg Graduate School of Business, and am also currently, for the past 15 so years, I've been a board member of the Independent Physicians Association of America. That's a little bit about me.
Nice. So you're in a busy and a very successful practice. So what led you to become an entrepreneur and start PatientMD?
Well, when I started practice with Illinois Bone and Joint, I started getting a good feel of what's happening to the industry. I saw that it's very inefficient. It's extremely expensive. There was lack of communication, lack of coordination of care. And I always felt that the physician's ability to play a bigger role in healthcare was being diminished. We were moving more into a provider-centric, payer-centric model. From provider, I meant more from a health system standpoint rather than a physician standpoint. And I truly felt that healthcare needed to be more patient-centric. And my passion has always been to keep healthcare between the patient and the doctor. And that's one of the goals that's one of the reasons I went into medicine, is to be able to take care of patients. And is the reason for most physicians. They enjoy taking care of patient care. So I felt that the industry had to change. That made me feel that for me to play a role in that, I needed to educate myself from a business standpoint, because healthcare is a business, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on the way you look at it. But that's when I went back to school, got my MBA. And then I looked at where the market was going. And because of the need for a change, because of the high cost and inefficiency, I felt technology would play a very big role in healthcare. But we were a very paper-based industry initially. And then starting in 2009, we started seeing broad adoption of electronic health records, where now we have an over 90% adoption rate. So the industry now is becoming digital. That opens up the doors for transformation of an industry. And I saw a big need for the industry to change. And I had that passion to change that. But just having electronic health records isn't enough to change the industry. But over the last probably 10 years or so, we're starting to see the maturation of additional technology that could really transform the industry. And specifically, I'm talking about mobile technology, cloud computing, predictive analytics, artificial intelligence, genomics, natural language processing technology, and blockchain on top of it. All the technology was coming together, and the pain was growing so much in the industry that I thought this was the right time to really make a change for the industry. I had an idea, I have a vision. So I said, I'm going to go for it.
Nice. So talking about change, where do you see the direction that healthcare is going? And, what kind of role will technology play in that?
Well, traditionally, healthcare, certainly in the United States, has been a fee-for-service model, where you get paid based on the amount of services that you provide rather than how much value you provide. So we're moving away from that, and we're moving into a value-based, patient-centric model, where now you will be paid based on outcomes and patient satisfaction and patient experience, which is where I feel it needs to go. But to get even more specific, long-term wise, I think we're moving into the world of precision medicine and personalized healthcare. There's a lot of talk about population health, about the health of the population. But as a patient, as an individual, we're all patients, we're all concerned of what is the exact type of healthcare that I need, specific, based on my genetic information, my clinical condition. What is the right type of healthcare for me? And that's where I feel we're moving. And technology is going to play an extremely crucial role in that. And to move in that direction, we ultimately have to work on creating the longitudinal record of the patient, which means that we need to be able to merge both clinical data, genomic data, and even IoT data, referred to as Internet of Things. And that's data coming from sensors and biomarkers and medical devices from home. And when you create that comprehensive record, we can now take technology, both from a clinical decision support, analytics, predictive analytics, and AI, to not only empower patients, but empower the physicians with them on precision medicine and personalized healthcare. And what's going to be interesting is of all the data that we talk about, clinic and genomics, obviously genomics is very important as well as clinical. IoT data may become the most important data in the future, because you're getting continuous data coming in at a regular pace in real-time fashion that can be analyzed and be used to manage patient care in almost a real-time fashion, versus data that you get from a doctor's office or a hospital is more episodic. Here we can get real-time data and be able to manage patients before they get really sick, which can avoid visits to the emergency room and potentially hospitalizations. And to promote this ability to create this record, we're in a good position right now because of new policies that are coming through past and current administrations. And that deals with information sharing and access to information for patients. So now it's going to be mandatory that you provide patients access to their data from whatever provider they see, and it must be provided to them in whatever third-party application they desire. So that opens up huge doors for that. On top of it, we're also moving into the world of price transparency, something we're not accustomed to here in the US, where patients now will be able to shop for healthcare. So when you create an environment with data liquidity and all this technology, and then empower patients with actionable information and give them information on price and quality transparency, I think it opens up a huge new healthcare delivery system that creates competition, which ultimately leads to improvement in quality of care and at a lower cost.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about PatientMD. Like, who are you? Like, what do you do? And, why are you different from other digital health companies?
In a few simple words, PatientMD is a AI-driven digital health platform that provides patient engagement solutions and digital marketing services to physicians' practices as well as to private healthcare businesses. We realized with my co-founder that a while back ago that technology was going to play a big role. And for most physicians' practices, we're not the most tech-savvy individuals. And realizing that we have to adopt a number of technologies to deliver the type of service that patients seek that maximizes their patient experience, we would have to deal with a lot of different vendors and then figure out how are we going to integrate this technology so things can work seamlessly. And we realized that's a nightmare for physicians. So what we did is build from the ground up a one-stop shop for the vast majority of digital technology that most physicians will need in order to, as well as healthcare businesses, to grow their practice and be able to compete in the marketplace. What's interesting when we talk to physicians, what we tell them is we're not just building services for you. The whole platform is built to serve as a strategy of what you need to do in order to grow your practice and be able to compete in this very competitive marketplace that we have. I'm certain I want physicians to practice the way they want. If you want to be an employed physician, if you want to be an independent physician, it's your choice. But I saw that the independent physician was struggling because we're starting to see a lot of consolidation in the industry with the hospital systems having 50% ownership of the physician marketplace currently. Payers are also purchasing physicians' practices. So the independent physician was in a position where they could provide high-touch care. They could do it more affordable than others, but the high-tech component is one thing that many of them were lacking. So our focus was to provide the high-tech component to the physician, specifically the independent, but also could be available to others, obviously. But now they could provide that high-touch care in a high-tech fashion, and that's more affordable. And we feel that is critical for physicians to be able to grow their practices and compete. And on top of it, we're a physician-driven organization, and I felt that physicians understand the problems of the industry. And I believe physicians are probably the best to be able to identify the problems and provide the solutions that are needed to improve patient care.
Absolutely. So how do you help physicians and the healthcare business community? And then also, like, how does this help the patient?
Well, we basically do three things with PatientMD. For physicians as well as the healthcare businesses, our number one objective is we help you grow your practice and your business. Second, we engage new and existing patients into your practice and into your business so they don't leave your practice and stay with your practice. And three, we make your office run more efficiently, especially the front end of the office. And when you bring all this together, that maximizes the patient experience. And we use technology to both from the patient engagement side as well as the digital marketing side. And the digital marketing, something that most physicians aren't normally used to doing. We traditionally use word of mouth marketing from our patients or referrals from our colleagues. But we're in a different world now. We're in a digital world where over 70% of patients now are choosing doctors and services through use of online tools. So if you don't have an online presence and you don't properly market yourself and your practice, you're going to struggle to grow. So our objective was bring all this technology to engage patients, show your value through your lower cost, high touch, high tech care service, and then market it. And in doing so, we feel this positions certainly the independent physician in a very strong position to compete against larger health systems and other organizations. Now, when we talk about growing a physician's practice, you have to look at too, where's the competition going to lie for physicians? And you need to be able to compete in those areas where the competition is going to be. First and foremost, competition's going to lie in the arena of patient engagement. We're moving into a consumer-driven marketplace where patients will now have access to their data as well as data on quality and pricing. So the ability to engage patients and provide them the experience that they desire. Specifically, patients now are accustomed to better the use of technology that makes their life more efficient. We see it in e-commerce through Amazon. We see it in making hotel reservations, airline reservations, restaurant reservations, the banking industry. You're doing a lot of things online. Well, people want that from healthcare also. So, and with now patients certainly in the U.S. paying for more of their own healthcare, they're starting to demand services that meets their needs. So that patient engagement is critical. Second is the ability to provide healthcare at an affordable cost. The cost has got skyrocketed here in the United States. It's just not sustainable. It is far more expensive than any other developed country or country in the world. So at least twice as more expensive than other parts. You know, it represents 18 to 19% of our GDP here in the United States, where the average around the world is somewhere between 10 and 11%. So it's just outrageously expensive. So being able to provide care in a cost-effective manner is going to be important. And we feel from physicians, certainly the independent physician is well positioned to provide a more affordable care. The third area where we see competition occurring is going to be in the area of care coordination, for chronic care management, where you can manage patients with chronic disease. And that's extremely important because over 75% of healthcare expenditures are occurring in patients who have chronic disease. And they often see doctors across different organizations and institutions. And the ability to coordinate that care is going to be very, very important. So one of the focuses of PatientMD is not just to provide physicians practices, services to serve as a strategy, but our goal is to provide local networks of physicians in their community where you could share information, communicate, and be able to coordinate care equivalent to any competitors out in the marketplace. So the bottom line is we have to create value. And when we talk about value, traditional definition of value is quality over cost. From a healthcare perspective, I look at value. I like to use a different definition. I like to look at it from the aspect of patient engagement over industry fragmentation, specifically the physician side. Why do I say that? Well, we're in a consumer-driven marketplace, so patient engagement is absolutely critical to create value. And we know when patients are engaged, quality improves, costs are reduced. Second, the industry fragmentation is a big problem. And specifically, we're in a very fragmented market when it comes to the physician side. So the ability to form a network, I feel, is absolutely critical to maximize the value that we can deliver to the community.
Okay, I love how you touch on network. So how does the Global Health Impact Network fit in with the objectives of PatientMD?
Yeah, as you probably well know, the Global Network was formed by Gary Goldman. It's interesting. Gary has an interesting background. He started out, who's the founder and CEO of the Global Health Impact Network. So he's a dentist. He started out as a dentist, then got his MD degree in practice anesthesiology, and also became a medical informaticist on top of it for Sutter Health for a number of years. And now he's going back to school and getting his MBA. So we kind of have a lot of similar things. It's interesting. We met over social media on LinkedIn. And it turns out we had a lot of people in common and connections. And I reached out to him, or he reached out to me, I can't remember exactly, a number of months ago. And we said, hey, let's get together and talk. And we started talking. And it's almost like every word that he was starting to say, I was thinking. And everything that I was saying, he was thinking. Like we were on the exact same page. We really had the similar vision to where we feel healthcare needs to go. And I think that brought us together, and then realized that PatientMD has that objective. The Global Health Information Impact Network has that same vision and same philosophy. So we thought about, let's join the network and work together. And we believe the creation of a network is extremely important to create the value that we think is necessary, and specifically a network of physicians that can provide patients the services that they need. And that's extremely important because we're in a global economy. So as in a global economy, we need a global healthcare delivery system. People travel. So people need to have access to all that information if they travel. If something happens to them abroad, away from your country, if people don't have access to that information, how are they going to deliver the best care for you? So we felt that forming a global network like this is going to be extremely important. And obviously we felt it needs to be physician driven for various reasons. One, we understand the problems of the industry, but one of the, I think, most important factors to really transform the industry, and it's important from not just the physician standpoint, but from the patient standpoint, is the ability to create trust in the marketplace. We're dealing with healthcare information, very sensitive information, and we believe the physician is best positioned to create the trust in the marketplace that I think would satisfy patients and satisfies the medical community. So that brought us together, and then we looked at the need for a network. There's numerous reasons. One, we also need collaboration. So physicians need to collaborate so they could communicate and share information more efficiently, and a network is critical for that. And it's absolutely critical that we do communicate properly and share information to avoid medical errors. There was a study out of Johns Hopkins that came out in 2016 that showed that medical errors in the United States is now becoming the third leading cause of death. And that is because of the lack of communication and the lack of access to information. So having that network really could address a very serious problem that we have. Two, a collaborative network like this helps us all from an educational standpoint, whereas physicians, we can learn from other physicians on how to manage care. Physicians often run into issues and questions they may have about a certain patient or medical condition, and the ability to securely and privately collaborate with other physicians to address some of these medical problems, we feel is extremely important. Having this type of network allows physicians to more effectively participate in clinical trials with their patients. So I think that's helpful. And another fashion is, physicians are struggling financially in this current condition because everything's about reducing the cost of care. And we realize digital health technology is going to play a big role, and it's certainly being funded by private equity and venture capitalists. And many physicians don't have access to invest in those companies. So we wanted to create an organization and a network that is driven by physicians, and most of the technologies created by physicians, where now physicians can not only be part of the network, but if they so desire, can invest in the network or the individual companies that are part of that network. So now it gives an extra revenue potential stream for physicians to help support them and support their practices. A lot of physicians' practices are going out of business or struggling. So any additional revenue they can get, and if they know that they're going to have to adopt the technology, and if they could help support the companies that develop this technology that they could use in their practice to improve patient care and still make some revenue from that, it's a win-win situation. So from that standpoint, we thought joining GHIN was extremely important. And again, it had a similar philosophy about bringing technology under a single roof, because that was part of the reason for developing PatientMD, is building multiple services in a single platform. So with GHIN, there's never going to be one company that can develop all the technology you need for healthcare. It's going to need to be a collaboration of different companies. And we realized that with PatientMD moving forward, that we were going to have to collaborate with others, because we're not going to produce all the technology out there that's needed. So we know partnerships would have to develop. And what I liked about GHIN, they had that similar philosophy. But what also is going to be important, the decision of companies coming into GHIN is to be successful. We all have to believe in the same vision, and we also have to have the same culture. Because when you bring different companies together, that culture aspect and that vision, buying into the vision, is extremely important. And I certainly get the impression from Gary and from talking to others who are part of the GHIN that we believe in the vision of where healthcare needs to go. We're all on the same page. And I think the culture of every organization that's part of it believes in the same thing. So I think the ability to build a very successful organization consisting of different companies is there. So from that standpoint, I think that would be of huge benefit. Now, when we do this, obviously this benefits the practices, which then benefits the patient. And now with the recent pandemic that we've had, we've seen an explosion in this digital health technology, and the rate of adoption has grown significantly, specifically in the area of telemedicine. Telemedicine is playing a huge role in transforming the industry. It started out many years ago, but the adoption rate has been quite slow. But with the pandemic, there was a need to receive healthcare through alternative means that's more efficient and safer from the patient side because of the pandemic situation. And here in the US, the government and the payer community immediately responded in a positive fashion, where they were now starting to reimburse physicians equivalent to an office visit, an in-person office visit, which accelerated even further the adoption. So you got the demand from the patients. The doctors are willing to do it because not only is it good for the patient, but they're at least getting paid comparable to what a clinic visit would be. And that's important because doctors are a business and they have to pay their bills and pay their staff, and they have to run a business that's profitable. So telemedicine is going to be huge. It's going to be huge because it provides healthcare services to patients that's more convenient, it's more efficient, it's more affordable. The employer community will love it because patients can be more productive when they don't have to take hours away from a day just to see a doctor. You can manage that. Potentially, you could see that your doctor over a lunch visit, or just take 20 to or a half hour visit while you're at work to manage a physician's appointment. You don't have to leave that company for the day or a half day. So the employees are more productive. So the employer community is helpful. Other things that this telemedicine does, especially if you're in a global network, you now give patients access to potentially experts all across the world. If I have my data now, because data is more liquid, and I control my data, and I need consultations maybe from an expert in France or in Canada or in England or India or any other country, I potentially can have a consultation with that physician and never leave my home. So from a patient standpoint, they can get second opinions and consultations from experts all across the world, something they weren't able to do before. And then on top of it now, because of the pandemic, we're moving away gradually from patient care at a hospital or at a doctor's office to patient care at home. So when we combine telemedicine with the remote patient monitoring that's occurring to manage chronic care from home and the use of in-home diagnostic studies, when you bring all that together, we're truly transforming the industry to one that's truly patient-centric, that's convenient, efficient, and more affordable. And with telemedicine, as many people are familiar with Zoom, you could have multiple parties on the same Zoom conference call. Now you could coordinate care potentially with patients with multiple diseases, bring multiple providers who are managing those diseases with different family members together to coordinate care for the patient. So the doctors and the family and the patient are all there at one point, having all the information they need and managing patient care where everyone's on the same page. And that to me is just fantastic. And on top of it, again, from the physician standpoint, not only can you deliver better care, but it also creates a new business model for physicians, from the ability to do consultations and provide second opinions, not just to patients within the country, but across the whole world. And that really begins to democratize medicine. So PatientMD and the GHIN network is a great fit.
Perfect. So yeah, if you're definitely like a physician or a healthcare business community, definitely check out PatientMD. If you're not part of GHIN yet, you can head over to globalhealthimpactnetwork.net, or you can just email me at martin@globalhealthimpactnetwork.net, and we'll get you onto the community. But Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insight. And I'm sure we'll definitely have you back in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Martin. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.